Hello everyone, from a lovely wood in a place called Waterbeach, which is near Cambridge. So yeah, I've just been on this amazing bike ride, and you go along the river from Cambridge. It's a few miles, and then you go through a number of places, and there's people rowing. Um, there's lots of beautiful flowers and nature, and it's been a long time since I did an update, and I thought I would do one today for some reason. Um, so I've had some massive changes in myself over the last 6 months in terms of consciousness and raising my awareness. And actually, I noticed that today, just really being present to nature, to other people on the towpath by the river, the nature in this wood. You can probably hear the birds tweeting away. And to me, that's the important things, or they are the important things in life. Now, after a few years out of the corporate world, where I spent most of my life before this. But yeah, just more of a peaceful life, in tune with nature, working on myself, manifesting amazing things. So yeah, I've been doing a lot, been away a lot. I was in Egypt earlier this year for 2 weeks doing scuba diving in the Red Sea. I've been to Courmayeur skiing for a week with the ski club, actually, Ski Club of Great Britain, which was amazing. And also been to Marybelle with my mate, which was a fab week and pretty intense. So I've had a number of physical things to deal with over the last year. And when things get physical, it means these are areas that have been unhealed for a long time, and it's your body trying to get your attention. And these were pretty major things. I mean, had like issues with both my knees. I couldn't walk properly. It was very, very painful for months, and I had to have a wisdom tooth out. And that was an interesting experience, and some other things as well. It was like last year seemed to be a world of pain, but I worked through it and I healed myself naturally. I mean, I did go to a dentist. They call them like biodentists, where they use some less toxic ingredients. That's a train going by going into Cambridge. Yeah, so they use less toxic ingredients, but it's still in the end in the medical system, and they're still trying to get you to use lots of their services, like, you know, we're going to take a tooth out and put some post in place. Oh, but it's a zirconium post, so it's going to be more biocompatible with your body. And it's, you know, it's a really learning experience for me there, of like actually healing myself, and doing the work on myself with the techniques that I'm learning and I'm mastering, I guess. And it works. You know, my knees are amazing now. And they told me that the dentist was telling me I needed to have like some root canal done, and I haven't had that done, and the tooth feels absolutely fine, you know. And I've just been working on the root causes. Root canal root causes, very good. Of these issues, these physical issues, and really it's sort of blown open my awareness, because it's got me in touch with such deep healing, that it's, you know, it's absolutely incredible. And I've really put my foot to the floor in terms of accelerating my healing journey over the last 18 months, and I thought I was already going for it. But yeah, I've just been really focused on my spirituality and my spiritual development. It's going great. It really is going great. I mean, I feel amazing, and you know, I don't have any health issues. Touch wood. I'm just going to touch this tree here. I don't go to the doctors. I'm avoiding the dentist now, or rather, I'm not going to the dentist because I've got my own solutions. So yeah, I mean, it's much more about creating the life how I want to create it, and not getting sucked into the matrix. Now, I've talked about the matrix on previous videos, so this, I mean, it's best described really if you go and watch the Matrix film, which is, you know, you may have already seen that, but I'd encourage you to watch it again. I mean, I think David Icke calls it a documentary. He's right. It is a documentary of what's actually going on, and the fake world that is all around us. And it just takes a little bit of digging in an area to uncover, you know, what the fakery is in that area. I've done a lot of digging in a lot of areas, and actually the more research you do and the more you uncover, and you know, might probably will trigger you, you know, if you're really into, I don't know, healthcare, and you think, oh, this is the way forward, and then you discover what these pharmaceuticals are actually doing to you, and what the, you know, I think the biggest killer in the United States, or if not one of the top three, is medical treatment. You know, and there's all these myths around it. Oh, you know, people used to die when, you know, 40 years ago, people were dying of, you know, various things, and the doctors didn't know, but now they know. Now they know it's cancer. Now they know it's Alzheimer's, and they're working on cures and what have you. But you know, that's just propaganda, basically, and you can uncover the truth there. But it's every area. Like I was saying, as you uncover the truths in that area, it will trigger things in yourself, and you'll be able to heal yourself, and that's really what I've been doing. So, you know, I can't really think of an area I haven't looked into in detail, and it is very, very triggering. But those triggers are inside of you. And the spiritual concept is as above, so below. Or what you see in the microcosm of your own self is a reflection of what's happening in the macrocosm. So the microcosm's your, you know, your own world, what's happening to you, or seems to be happening to you, let's say. And then the macrocosm is what's happening in the world, and what you're observing there, you know, which could be politics, Trump, I don't know, whatever else is going on, racial tensions, ethnic tensions, you know, those sorts of things will be reflecting what's going on inside of you, and those are areas you could work on to heal yourself, and then the outside world will change. And this is literally, it will change. You won't look at those things in the same way again, and you might not even see them at all, or they just won't have any resonance. And yeah, things, I mean, I don't know, I did get sucked into the whole politics thing for quite a while, and I'm pretty much out of it now. I mean, I just look at what's going on, and it's, you know, it's just manipulation. And you know, back in the day, I think it was Rishi Sunak, this is the UK now, as a conservative politician. The same applies to anywhere though, and that would be nominally right wing, and then I think they voted him out, and then they got Labour in, which is supposedly the left wing party with the red colour, and then got Sir Keir Starmer in. Note the Sir. He's a man of the people, yeah. And then now he's no good, so they're talking of getting rid of him and bringing in Nigel Farage, who's basically a city boy. Again, I'm sure he's got your best interests at heart, you know. Good luck with that one. If you think they're going to make change things for the better, was it reform? Yeah, I think pretty much it's going to be undeniable that, you know, of what is going on, that these so-called systems where you think you've got choice, and you think you think they're working for you, in actual fact they're not working for you at all, and they don't have your best interests at heart. And you know, you could look at any area you like, and do some digging. You have to come to your own conclusions, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And there's lots of people who've done this. I mean, I mentioned David Icke, there's plenty of others. And you know, I do think it's a mistake to reject someone's opinions. Like, and this is something I've actually learned about myself recently, and not just intellectually, but actually changing my perception so that this is how I actually see things and feel things. Um, and this is an important distinction, by the way. So you can intellectually know stuff. Like, actually, you can know spirituality intellectually, and that's what a lot of people do. They might intellectually know that they are a soul, or however they want to couch it, but do they actually feel it? Do they feel that connection? That is a whole different kettle of fish. And yeah, what I was saying about authors, or other people, researchers, you don't have to agree with everything they say. And I was guilty of this in the past. It's like I would just get, they don't think like me, so why should I waste my time reading this book or watching this film or this video? And or you could even read or watch a film or video with a closed mind and just not listen to certain sections, but go, oh yeah, I agree with this part, so yeah, that aligns with my belief system. But I've had a big shift in this area recently, just this week actually. And with someone like, for instance, David Icke, who does quite align with how I think, but still there's quite a lot of things I don't agree with what he's saying. But now I find it much easier to read his material, and I'm getting a lot more out of it. And I'm seeing things that I never saw before in his text. And there's one of his books I read, must have been 10 or 15 years ago. And I've come back to it, and I'm getting so much more out of it. But this is what happens when you raise your level of awareness or raise your consciousness, is you can see things in a different light, and you can get so much more out of stuff when you let go of the beliefs and clear the beliefs that you have, which could be, he's talking a load of rubbish, or a belief might be something like, I don't agree with them, so I'm not going to listen to them. And then that's a lens with which you would see the world through. And we all have millions of these beliefs. But when you start to clear them, which means it's like deleting the belief, if you want to think in IT terms. So it doesn't exist anymore. And then it changes your awareness, because now you're seeing the world without that filter in place, without he's talking a load of rubbish, so I'm not going to listen to him filter. And instead you go, oh, well, maybe they have got something to say, or maybe, I might not agree with everything, but perhaps there is stuff in here that is of interest. Now, of course, some books you read, and I do this, you read a book and you go, this is not for me. But, it's definitely pretty incredible being a lot more open-minded now, and a lot more open to different experiences, and not just saying it. This is the thing, it's not me just saying it. It's actually feeling it and knowing it and clearing the beliefs that were in the way of me having this experience, this expanded viewpoint. And this is the key area, I think, that I can help people with, because there's this concept called spiritual bypassing, which I'll just explain. And basically, the whole idea behind it, or the fact behind it, is our egos don't want to be found out, and they don't want to relinquish control. They don't want to admit they're wrong, and they'll do anything to basically stop being found out. So if you're doing spiritual work on yourself, a lot of the time your ego will be going, oh yeah, that's absolutely, yeah, I can see how this all fits in, and yeah, I'm spiritual. And the ego is pretending to be spiritual and being an imposter, all the while really you're not changing at all. And having an intellectual understanding of something does not mean that you've got it. That's the spiritual bypassing. Means basically you're not willing to look at certain things because it's too uncomfortable, or you just don't want to go there. might be stuff that's happened. It will link to stuff that's happened in your childhood, and you're like, yeah, I'm not. Why should I, dredge all that up? There's no point. I am where I am. Let's just enjoy life and what have you. But the problem is that your reality is being created from those experiences that you had in your childhood, and that are then playing out on replay basically your whole life. And if you're not willing to go there, which could look like in the macrocosm, in the external world, I'm not willing to look at David Icke because he talks about reptilians or something, and that is just ludicrous. For instance, that might be one point. But if you did look at something like that, or whatever interests you, there'll be something in your life that has come up. It could be in finance, it could be in health, it could be in politics, it could be in any of the different spheres. It's like, what calls to you, what is of interest to you? And if you do some digging, you'll find researchers that have looked into this. And if you go, well, I'm not going to look into the true nature of finance, that banks just create money out of thin air and charges interest on it, for instance, because I've got my degree in finance from university, so that would just invalidate everything I did for all those years, and also my career. Maybe I've been an accountant for 30 years, and I absolutely know how the financial system. Well, I've got my view of how the financial system works, for instance. That might be something someone says. So if you were to learn that it was all BS, what you've learned, or, it's like you're missing the elephant in the room, it can be quite difficult for the ego to admit it was wrong and to look at a different viewpoint. So that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. And like I say, it could be any area. I just mentioned finance. I mean, that is an area I've looked into. I'm not a financial whiz or anything, but I've had financial products, and I can read contracts, and I can do research. I've got a brain. I can uncover the truth. When you've got time on your hands, which is what they don't want you to have, when you're working and earning a salary, and you don't have time on your hands, so you don't have time to look into, this mortgage payment you're paying every month, and where does the money go, and council tax, where does the money go? But I've had time to look into all of this, and it's amazing. Once you start, you don't have to do a lot of digging, and you just start to, it all just crumbles away. You just go, oh my God, this is just all complete nonsense. They're telling us this BS through the media. Oh, that's another area. And you just do a bit of digging and a bit of looking into, who owns the media companies or something like that. And you find it's just 5 corporations, which is effectively one corporation owns pretty much everything in the mainstream, and the alternative media. Let's not forget that. I'll come to back to that point in a minute. Yeah, where was I? So yeah, doing digging in certain areas and uncovering, the truth, or uncovering uncomfortable truths that would then make you challenge yourself and let go of beliefs that you had, and let go of maybe what you thought was true and what you learned was true at university in your area. And I mean, there's so many ways I could take this conversation. I mean, you just got there's so much symbology. When you open your eyes to symbology and what's being shown to you with the symbols, it's a whole nother language, and this is used everywhere. Once you see it, you can't deny it. There's a really good guy called Jordan Maxwell. He's passed away now. And he was one of the original researchers. He's got a very good series on Gaia. I'm not saying Gaia is great or recommending that channel, but they've done a good job producing a series that he created. And I definitely recommend that. He talks about symbols quite a bit, and in a very easy to understand way. I think what Gaia have done is produced it properly, because sometimes these speakers, especially Jordan Maxwell, great as he is, he's not very well structured when he's doing his talks. That's me saying this. But yeah, this is, maybe I'll have a series on Gaia at some point wherein they'll help me organize my thoughts in a more coherent way. And but yeah, I was talking about symbols. So the symbols are everywhere, and once you see it, you just you just go anywhere. You just go and look at, like, anywhere, like a police officer with the checkerboard round stripe round their skull, Masonic checkerboard. You go into a Masonic temple, which I have been into some pretty big ones actually in the States, and their Egypt room and their temple and what the columns mean, and what the symbology means. And then I'm out walking with my mum in Stockton-on-Tees, and I see some new business park, and there's a big office building called Boaz House, and I'm like, that's one of the Masonic pillars. Why have they called it Boaz House? And the vast majority of people would have no idea what that means, and they just none of this is taught to you in the mainstream. In fact, they use techniques to cover it up. And a big one of those is distraction. Actually, that's what we're going to talk about today. Yeah, is distraction, because what they're trying to do. Well, yeah, what they're trying to do. I'll pause there, because it's also the ego. Your ego is trying to distract you from healing, from the ego, from having your ego take its hands off the driving wheel and relaxing and letting your higher aspects in. So ego is trying to distract you, and so in the outside world, in the macrocosm, it's trying to distract you with media and government and all these dramas that are presented to you over the years. And if you've been following the news and what have you for a while, like I have, although I haven't been watching it much for the last 6 months, but you can see waves of things that come in, waves of ideas and distractions they want people to buy into. So I mean, global warming's been a topic for a very long time, and they call it climate change now. And that's been a theme, because one of the great things, again, it's like you can blame the people for that. So they engineer something that there's some truths in it, of course, like we should look after the planet. I mean, I love nature. I'm all for looking after the planet, and doing what we can. But it's been twisted by the media, and they've made CO2 out to be some excuse me, some toxic gas or something that we all should be afraid of, and it's not true. I mean, it's what the trees and plants use CO2, and this whole idea that the whole planet is warming up is not true either. And you can look into this. I mean, there's people like the ex-founder of Greenpeace who, once they start uncovering the truth, they kick them out and demonize them. And the same, I think, is David Bellamy. I might have mentioned this before. If you look at David Bellamy, who's a very famous environmentalist and very high educated, and he saw through all of this, and was banned from the BBC. Some people walking. Might have to keep my voice down a bit. So yeah, where was I? Listen to the bird song for a while I collect my thoughts. Talking of distractions, Okay, I've moved on now. It is a very quiet wood here. So yeah, they'll take something that is a good idea, and oh yeah, if people are we can really get people emotionally involved here, and then they'll twist it to make it serve their purposes, which normally involves more taxation, more control, getting people to blame themselves. And actually, I think if you look into it, they're actually doing the opposite of what they're saying. So that's the crazy world we live in, a world of inversions. So they're saying they're helping the environment, but they don't care about the environment. These people, these oligarchs, people at the top, they don't care about the environment. I mean, they go to that Davos summit in Switzerland every year in the winter, and all flying their private jets. You had who was that guy who was preaching about environmental issues? Oh, I forget his name now. He was a Democrat. It was quite a while ago. Might come back. His name might come back to me. He was flying all around the world, and it's as usual. It's one rule for them and another for us. So we've all got to cut back because we're the masses. But the elites, they can do whatever they want, and there's the actual policies to cut back on carbon dioxide are just nonsense, because that's what the trees need and the plants need. But yeah, of course, there are other toxic chemicals, and we should look at more. I'm going to use the word sustainable. I know this is another word that's being co-opted, but that's a good idea to recycle more, and be more kind to the environment. But we need to look at it holistically. And if you just have a little, again, just scratch the surface here and look at electric vehicles and how they're produced and what their environmental impact is as a whole. I'm not just talking about driving around in the UK. Where do the materials come from? Can they be recycled? What damage do these vehicles do to the roads? What's the environmental impact there? Because they're a lot heavier. When you're sat in them, there's a lot of electromagnetic frequencies, radiation. How does that affect us? Where are these things like lithium and cobalt mined? What's the ethical practices in the Democratic Republic of Congo? The propaganda is just unbelievable. Like, I see these signs and they say 0 emissions, and it's like, these cars are not 0 emissions, they're displaced emissions. So yes, there's nothing coming out of the tailpipe, but there's some power station somewhere. Don't get me started on wind farms. There's some power station somewhere that are generating the electricity, and there's emissions there, or there's environmental impact there if it's nuclear, or wind turbines. They're cutting trees down. I've cut tons of trees down in Scotland to build wind turbines, which is like not a reliable energy source. So this is all just swept under the carpet, and people look at the headlines and think, oh, I'm driving this environmentally friendly car, but it's anything but environmentally friendly. So yeah, so this that's what I was talking about. There's these waves of distractions that are presented in the media, like global warming. Oh, that was another thing I was going to say on global warming. When I was in Egypt, I was in Hurghada area. Actually, it was a place called El Gouna. I'd really recommend it. Hurghada itself is a bit of a dump, but El Gouna is like this really nice, gated sort of resort area with a number of different hotels, and they've got a golf course there. And I found this really good diving company. Swiss guy was running it. So it was such a good place. I was chatting to one of the dive instructors, and he was telling me how it's actually got a lot cooler there now. So he said before, like when he was growing up, he must have been like in his 40s. He's saying when he was growing up in Hurghada, in the mornings in the winter, they just had a couple of weeks where it was cold and you might need a jacket, and then it might rain a bit. But now it's extended, and I went there in April, and it was actually a bit chilly at times, and you needed some warm clothes at night. And he was saying, yeah, it wasn't like this before. So, okay, that's anecdotal evidence, but the propaganda we're given in the media is, oh, I mean, I go skiing as well, so people are pointing out, oh, look at these glaciers that are retreating. Um, and yeah, they are, again, like with the climate change BS, there are, like with the that aspect of climate change BS, where it's, we should be more friendly to the environment and care for the environment better, and they've twisted it around CO2. And then they're saying here, like, well, here's proof, look at all of these areas where the glaciers are retreating, and then they show these pictures of polar bears, like heart-wrenching pictures where they're sort of dying, and but they're not giving it's propaganda, because they're not giving the full picture. So where these interviews in Egypt, where they've gone to Hurghada or the Red Sea places and interviewed people or done studies and found that the temperatures have actually dropped there, and it's because what they do is they'll only present in the media stuff that backs up their agenda, and that goes for these scientific reports as well, and studies. You can look into that as well. They just don't get funding. If you don't align with the agenda, you're not going to get funding. The stuff that they get the funding for. I mean, I'm living in Cambridge here, and we have I think it's the biggest biotech development in Europe, which is South Cambridgeshire. So there's Addenbrooke's Hospital, and there's all sorts of organisations there, like the British Heart Foundation and Cancer Research UK. They've got big facilities there, and there's the university. Cambridge University has facilities there. They've built a new train station there called Cambridge South. If you want to do research, if you rock up and go, oh, can we look into perhaps doing some natural therapies, or how this might heal cancer, and or can we do some studies on this? They're not interested. They're never ever going to do that, because the way they found to make money from this is pharmaceuticals. And yeah, they will they do steal ideas from nature, of course they do, and then they create synthetic versions of these compounds. Train. And then they can make a lot of money out of it, because they can patent it. Whereas, you can't patent the stuff in nature. And also what they're doing with pharmaceuticals is, you don't know what's in those drugs. You've got no idea. It's all compartmentalized. And we've just had the whole COVID debacle. There's stuff coming out about that, so I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but apart from to say that is another big distraction that was put in the media. Like we've got the this alleged conflicts in the Middle East. I'm not saying this stuff isn't happening and there aren't people dying and there isn't suffering, but you don't know what's really going on, because what you're being presented with is this distraction, this mind control technique in the media, on a massive scale. Actually, one of the approaches they use is basically, the people behind all of this are experts in psychology. So some of you may have, I'm quite interested in psychology and the techniques that are used. And there's a program that CIA was involved in. It was pretty horrific, actually, called MK Ultra. It comes from the German words for mind control, and it's from the Nazis, basically. The Nazis came out of Germany and were moved to the USA through something called Operation Paperclip. Again, this is all, you'll probably find on Wikipedia, both of those things, Operation Paperclip, MK Ultra. So that's all just out in the open. They don't even try and hide that. The MK Ultra program was basically torturing people to see how you could break them and get them to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. And the way this is used in the world is these lone gunmen who, some loner who then goes into some school and shoots up a load of people. Pretty much guarantee that is those people have been mind controlled, and are being used to mind control you, because it's controlling the narrative. You're getting emotionally involved. You see it on TV. Someone's gone in and shot a load of people in a school in the States, and then they can use that to bring in laws or whatever they want to do. Which is this is one of their techniques. So they have a number of psychological techniques. That's one of them. And again, go and look if you're interested. Just go and look on Wikipedia for MK Ultra and Operation Paperclip. What was the other? Oh, distraction. I keep getting distracted by these trains and other things. So so distraction is a really good technique for them as well, because what they want to do is stop you from looking at yourself and looking at the world, and they just want to keep you on the hamster wheel of doing your job and just keeping food on the table. And if there's a problem, don't just pay a charity, just give them some donation and they'll sort it out for you. If you feel guilty, some friends just passed away of cancer, well, just set up a fundraiser for cancer research, and they'll sort out the issue. I'm sorry to tell you, it's never ever going to help doing things like that. It might feel better, it might assuage guilt or some other feelings you have, but these organizations, like I mentioned, they're based in, from my perspective, they've got like pretty heavy presence in South Cambridgeshire. The techniques they're looking at, and this is my opinion, it's never going to solve the problem, because they're looking at the external. So when you're looking at the external, you're trying to fix the outside world and trying to fix like things in your body. Like with my knees last year, I couldn't walk. It was agony for months. First my left knee and the right knee, and the advice is go to the doctor. Go and first take anti-inflammatories. Go and see a doctor, and then if I'd have gone, I'm sure that I would have ended up with going to see getting referred to some consultant, and God knows what would have happened. And this is all like external, trying to fix things in the external world, rather than looking at the projection from your consciousness, which is, what is called the physical issues are caused by underlying emotional and reasons and patterning, beliefs, what have you, stuff that you've been programmed with by watching TV. I was at my mum's the other week, and she was watching Casualty. She was telling me she doesn't like soaps, and she said, oh, well, let's watch Casualty. So I thought, let's watch this. I used to watch it when I was a student sometimes. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just like unbelievable. It's like a soap opera. And they've got all the themes, like euthanasia in there, and some old guy is commits suicide because he's missing his wife, and that scene is like, well, that's a good thing, that it's respectful to him to let him to die. And it's like, yeah, but what about the grief? Like, what if he dealt with the grief? He could still have a wonderful life instead of hanging on to that memory. So this is what I'm saying is, we're being presented with these solutions of take a pill, have surgery, commit suicide, or give money to charity, they'll sort it out. But unfortunately, it's unavoidable. The only way to deal with these things, if you really want to make a difference, is you've got to look at yourself and the outside world and everything in it, and is really a projection from you. So now this is like, if you look into quantum physics, this is the sort of area where I think the science is really covering this topic. Things like the observer effect, where they talk about is light a wave or is it a particle? I think I've got that right. And it depends on the observer. And this is the whole area I'm talking about, is that we've got a lot more power than we think we have, and we're projecting onto this projector screen basically our experience. But everything we're being presented with in the external world is telling us that we should externalize everything. We should externalize stuff too. If you want to help, if you want to improve your health, you go to the doctor. If you want to improve, if you've got an issue with a dispute, then and it goes too far, you go to court. There's some system there in the outside world that is designed to help you externalize your power, basically. But the real power is going inside of yourself and dealing with the emotional issues, like I mentioned with my knees last year. And it was, the pain was, I would say, like last year was so much pain came up for me, but that was pain inside myself. That was emotional pain that had come to the surface. And rather than suppress it with painkillers, and I did for the teeth, I've got to say, with the tooth thing, oh my God, that was 10 out of 10 pain, that. And I did take some ibuprofen and paracetamol. So, but I did crack, and sometimes I did go to the dentist as well and have the tooth pulled out. But I'm saying, like, my first port of call is to look at myself and work on the emotional reasons behind those things. But yeah, ideally you'd be able to heal everything, but sometimes, if you break your leg or something, my current viewpoint is I would go to hospital and have them put on a splint. But other things like emotional conditions where you might not see a physical manifestation, for instance, anxiety, stress, those are really good things to address with, even like the mainstream acknowledges that it's good to go and it's good to deal with those within yourself. Now, they present psychology or go to see a therapist as the answer. But the problem is it's all getting you to go back to your mind again. And there's something called mindfulness. I know that's is quite popular, where it's like what I've been doing today, really, just being really present, biking along, looking at the flowers, it being present in nature and being present with myself, with my feelings, my breathing. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's great. But there's so much more that you can do by working on your beliefs and clearing them down and getting to the root of the anxiety. I'm think back to when I had an issue with anxiety, and I did go and see the doctor. And after a couple of visits, they were like, "Oh, take these pills," which there's no way I'm going to be taking anti-anxiety medication or happy pills, because to me that's just masking the emotional stuff that's coming up. And I can totally understand why people do that if they've got a job and they've got a family and they feel like they haven't got time to deal with it, so they're taking a pill to suppress the underlying issues. I get it, but you have to make time if you want to solve the problem, and you don't want to end up with a much more serious issue down the line. You really have to make the time, because sometimes it can be big changes in your life that you need to make, like I've made, and to deal with the issues, and there's a lot of the emotional things that come up need to be dealt with if you want to be healthy and want to live a longer life. And you can brush it under the carpet and you can suppress it, but you're going to have other issues coming up. And I see this with relatives where they're taking the pill and then they give you another pill, and then these are regular pills they're taking for blood pressure, and then it's another pill for like, oh, cholesterol, and then there's, oh, well, that might have some effect on your body, so we're going to give you a pill for that. And none of these things have been tested together in clinical trials. They don't test multiple drugs together in clinical trials. So they don't know what the interactions are, how it affects your body, and and these are long-term medications that people are put on, and I think those are this is my viewpoint, not a doctor or anything, those are the worst ones, because it's not like you've got an issue, you've broke your leg, you go to the doctor, they put a splint on, although there will be some underlying issue behind that, so it's good to clear on that. But putting you on some drug for long term without, and that's the only option they give you. I mean, I just think that's crazy, and you can only go in one direction when you go down that path, and it's not a good direction. So yeah, distractions. That's what I was thinking about, and got into that little track there. So there's lots of distractions that have been put in the media over the years, and like the whole thing around 9/11, and then going into the Middle East, and again, you can look into that as well. It's a really good book by a building specialist called Dr. Judy Wood, and it's called Where Did the Towers Go? I'd recommend that. I revisited that recently. It's very technical, actually, so it's more if you're good at maths. I mean, I'm okay at maths, but not at that level. But she's a structural engineer. She's got a PhD, and she was teaching this at university until she started looking into what happened with the towers from a scientific point of view. So then they fired her and all the rest of it. That's one of the usual things they do. If you start challenging the system and the narrative, they'll just get rid of you, like with Dr. David Bellamy, that guy, also the guy who's the co-founder of Greenpeace, numerous other people. So you've got to play the game, or you're out, basically. So yeah, there's 9/11 narrative, there's the COVID narrative, and then now this is what I want to get into. We've got this alien disclosure narrative. So this is an interesting one, because this has been going on in the alternative research community for quite a number of years. And there was an incident in New Mexico in the United States, a place called Roswell, which was covered up. It was very famous, and this is actually featured in the trailer, in the mainstream trailer to Steven Spielberg's film. I think it's called Disclosure. But basically, he's become a conspiracy theorist, if you listen to him, because he's saying, I think this is actually true, what I'm presenting here. And he's talking about alien abductions, which this has been in the research community for decades, where a certain type of alien is abducting humans and then using them for various purposes, like genetic research and other things. And I think this is what's covered in this film. I've not been to see it, probably won't go to see it. But what's interesting is this is now being brought into the narrative. So I was at my mum's the other week, and I just opened the Daily Mail, and there's this massive spread about aliens. It's like grey aliens, which are the little grey aliens with the black eyes. And there's a double-page spread in the Daily Mail. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So we've got, Spielberg's film. We've got this double-page spread in the Daily Mail with some top lawyer saying he thinks part of this is true. And so there's the scientific, or there's the proof from the system, not scientific, but someone who's highly educated saying this isn't just a conspiracy theory. Look, and it was like, I think it was 4 or 5 pages, and my mum was like, "Oh yeah, that's interesting," and she was having a look at it. And why are they putting this in the media now? Why are they talking about disclosure? And it is coordinated. I mean, this is the way they do things. It is organized, it is coordinated. You've got Spielberg producing a movie about it. He couldn't be much more part of the system. And the psychological technique here is called pre-programming. So what you do is you soften up the population with some ideas and concepts before you actually go ahead and do it. Now, I'm not saying that what they present is going to be real, but we can see from AI technology, which you can't just think that they've created that now. I mean, it's so advanced. They had to have had that before, and they've just made it available now, surfaced it to the population, and you can see how fast all of that's moving. Oh, by the way, that narrative seems to contradict slightly with the environmental narrative. So, all these data centers they're building, and the power and water consumption, and you can look into this. So how are we being environmentally friendly there? And also that's getting rid of thousands and thousands of jobs now and replacing them with AI. Is that, maybe there's some impact there on people's lives that could be considered. But I just wanted to mention that because it's interesting that narrative conflicts with the environmental narrative, which is because they're now having to hurry things up because they're panicking. Plus, people are starting to wake up and realize things aren't quite what they thought they were in the world. So yeah, the disclosure thing. Now, I was saying to my mum, don't be surprised if one day suddenly there's a bunch of aliens show up in these advanced craft and then meet with world leaders, and there's some massive hoo-ha and media coverage, just like on the disclosure film. I mean, I've seen a trailer, so you can see what they're presenting there, but that doesn't necessarily mean what they're presenting to you is true. It's just another way of distracting you, and getting you to buy into government and the military and what they're doing, and I'm sure they'll have some amazing solution for us, an amazing way to move society forward as a result of this, because that will change everything. I mean, my view, well, I know that we're not alone in the universe. I know there's various alien species. I mean, it's a massive topic again, and the origins of humans and all of that. But what they're going to present to us, I would say is going to be a show. It's not going to be it's going to be, they will give us some truth. They have to give you some truth. They have to give you some something, otherwise people wouldn't believe it. So it's going to be a show like you're not going to you're not going to be able to resist it. These people are experts, absolute experts in manipulation and mind control, and they're rolling out this disclosure thing now. I mean, Trump was saying something, by the way, I'm not a fan of Trump or any politician, but Trump was saying something months ago on the record. I think he was Air Force One. He was being interviewed by some journalists, and he was saying about, Obama, he should have kept his mouth shut about aliens or something, or just a little, the president's just let slip that Obama knew about aliens, and he mentioned something the other way. It's just like gossiping and drip feeding into the conscious narrative, drip feeding into the consciousness, this narrative about aliens, and now there's a film out, and there are these conspiracies about disclosure, and you look on Gaia TV, and there's a load of stuff, by the way, about alien disclosure there, and you look on YouTube, and these channelings, which is where basically you can channel the consciousness of another being. They might probably aren't going to be good or like positive beings, by the way, but people tend to think they are. But so they'll be channeling, there's a guy called Bashar, if you look on YouTube, and he's channeling, well, that is the channeled entity, Bashar, and then there's some bloke who channels him. And he does lots of conferences in the States, and people pay money to go and see these things on cruise lines and what have you. This has been going on for decades, this type of thing. But Bashar, which is this entity, is saying 2027 is the year of disclosure, and it's all going to come out. Stuff is going to be disclosed this year. I mean, this is something big is going to come out, but it's going to be used by the people that are in control to try and manipulate consciousness, and to distract you from working on yourself and looking at yourself, and taking your power back. And with the train, this is the main line to London, actually, London King's Cross and Liverpool Street. So so funny, another distraction. But look how easy it is to be distracted, and just think about on a day-to-day basis how often you're distracted. So yeah, I think you're going to see some pretty big stuff coming out, to radically change the world, and to bring in a next state, a massive shift in the agenda. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work. I think this is going to wake up a lot of people to the truth of what I'm saying here. And just like COVID did, just like 9/11 did, just like various big events that have happened have woken up a lot of people when they've looked into it, or on a personal level, if a loved one has had some vaccine injury and passed away, or had some experience, like and they've looked into it and done some research, and it's woken them up. Maybe they've come through it and gone, yeah, I'm never going to touch those drugs again, or I'm going to look for I'm going to use an alternative approach and work on myself. So yeah, what I'm saying there is it's going to be an opportunity for a whole load of people to wake up en masse. But first, they're going to be presented with something that is going to shatter like what they think the world is, what they think their history is, which needs to be shattered, because it is all lies. His story is his story. It's written by the winners, and it's taught to the children, and the lies are perpetuated. This is going to shatter everyone's perspective. I mean, I think it's going to freak me out, and I'm ready for it. But you've got all these questions that come up, and people are going to maybe be drawn to religions. Again, it's externalizing spirituality, religions. It's not looking inside yourself and connecting with your own spirituality. It's like, the Pope is going to tell you what to think, or whatever religious leader for whatever, pick your religion of, they're going to be the ambassadors to the aliens. They're going to be the ones who represent the people, and they're going to come up with a solution for us all. But this is where the danger is buying into what they say. And if you can, again, it's going to wake up masses and masses of people, this. So it's another massive opportunity to have the veil lifted and to awaken yourself. And it really is worthwhile doing that, I can tell you. Yes, there might be some painful truths to deal with and some painful things to let go of, but the truth of who you are is magnificent. And you're not just some little human being wandering around with just this life and that's it. It's all we're alone in the universe, and woe is you just do your job and then retire, and then that's it, and get ill from diseases. There's so much more, and that is really what the awakening is. It's not externalizing power externalizing your power to these outside organizations like the church, like government, like the military, like you picked, like hospitals, doctors, take your pick. You have the power within you, and you have a huge amount of power within you. And this is what I've been really getting in touch with, because if you can change your beliefs, or not change your beliefs, you clear your beliefs, but change your perspective and change your world. By changing your beliefs, you change your world. By clearing your beliefs, changing your perspective, your world shifts completely. Your reality shifts. Like like I mentioned, this is covered in quantum physics, in the sort of current scientific, model. That is a huge amount of power, and the people in charge don't really want you to get in touch with that. And also your ego doesn't want you to get in touch with that, because the ego just wants to externalize. So again, that's the macrocosm reflecting the microcosm. So your mind, your ego, your logical mind does not want you to get in touch with your spirituality in your heart, because that would mean relinquishing control. And the ego wants you to keep control, which is mirrored in the outside world by all the different organizations. They want you to let them control you, basically. Just like the ego wants to control you, wants to control your body, wants to control your spirituality, wants to control everything. So awakening to one of those is an awakening, and will change your entire world. So they're not separate. The external world is a reflection of your internal world completely. The ego is a reflection of the external matrix organizations, and you can shift this if you want to. It's completely up to you, but you're going to be forced to face stuff. So that's, you can do things in advance and work on yourself, or you can be forced by events that happen in your life, or seem to happen to you, but you're creating really events that happen in your life. And you're going to be forced to face stuff with this disclosure thing, because it's just going to change the perspective, or make you question, or make us all question everything. This is a freight train. It wasn't very long. That's good. I made an assumption there. I know, it is long. Yeah. Still going. Now it's finished. So, yeah, I think I will leave things there. And what a year. I think it's been like a year and a half since I last left an update on my channel, and it's been so much water under the bridge, so much personal development. I've had so many amazing experiences in different countries, and this country. I've shifted so much, shifted how my relationships and how I view the world. I mean, it's been an amazing journey. So let's see what happens next. Get ready, folks. Is that a flying saucer? That type of thing. All right, have a good one, and I will speak to you, I don't know, whenever I choose to speak to you again. Bye.